Christina!
Back in 2005, Family Guy had a hilarious skit about the Passion of the Christ to Crucify This. At the time, it seemed almost sacrilegious to even joke about a sequel to what was the biggest religious film ever. But now, against all odds, The Passion of the Christ as the big religious blockbuster of the season. And guess what? Mel Gibson is back to direct and write the sequel, with Jim Caviezel returning to his iconic role as Jesus of Nazareth. Originally set for an Easter 2024 release, The Passion of the Christ 2 has faced some delays and is now tentatively scheduled for April 18, 2025. With more than 20 years between the original and the sequel, it's clear that this new film will be quite different, especially considering Mel Gibson's recent work like Hacksaw Ridge, which showcased his evolving directing skills. Even Mel Gibson is still figuring out the direction for The Passion 2. While Jim Caviezel mentioned that the script was done back in 2020, Gibson revealed in a 2023 interview that he's torn between two different scripts. Both scripts focus on the 3 days between Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, but one of them is described by Gibson as like an acid trip, featuring a more visually intense depiction of hell. This could mean that The Passion of the Christ 2 might be much more CGI-heavy compared to the original film. Also, the full title, Resurrection Chapter 1, hints that this could be the start of a whole series, rather than just a single sequel. Gibson's team has confirmed that the next installment will be split into multiple parts. While it's unclear if Gibson plans to explore more biblical stories beyond The Passion of the Christ 2, the fact that fans might get not just one, but potentially two new films is already exciting news for those eagerly awaiting Gibson's take on this epic story. So far, we know that 3 actors from the original The Passion of the Christ will be back for the sequel. Along with Jim Caviezel reprising his role as Jesus, Maia Morgenstern will return as Mary, and Francesco DeVito is coming back as Peter. While concrete details about the plot are still unknown, it's uncertain if other original cast members will make a return. What we do know is that Mel Gibson won't be flying solo on the writing front for The Passion of the Christ 2. He's teaming up with Randall Wallace, the co-writer of Braveheart. Wallace, known for his work on films like Heaven is for Real, has a strong track record with compelling religious stories. Most of the film's principal photography is complete, though some scenes are still being shot in Mexico. With a 2025 release date set, it seems like a reasonable timeline given the 20-year gap since the original. For fans, just one more year of waiting might be worth it to see how this epic saga continues. Jim Caviezel has boldly claimed that the upcoming sequel, The Passion of the Christ Resurrection, will be the biggest film in world history. The original film, which depicted Christ's crucifixion and death, became a cultural touchstone and a major box office hit, raking in over $620 million before being surpassed by Deadpool and Wolverine in August 2024. It also earned 3 Academy Award nominations in 2005 for Best Makeup, Best Cinematography, and Best Original Score. Despite its success, the film faced significant backlash for its graphic violence, historical inaccuracies, and accusations of anti-Semitism. In 2016, news emerged that director Mel Gibson and writer Randall Wallace were working on a sequel. By 2018, Caviezel was reportedly in talks to reprise his role, and earlier this year, Wallace confirmed that discussions about the sequel were still in progress. Caviezel has since revealed more details about the project to Breitbart News, sharing that he has read Gibson's 3rd draft of the script. According to Caviezel, the sequel is set to be a grand spectacle, aiming for unprecedented scale and impact. While the original film's reception was mixed, with critics highlighting its controversies, it clearly resonated with many, as evidenced by its box office success. However, the world has changed significantly since 2004. Today, there's less tolerance for content considered offensive or insensitive, which raises questions about how the sequel will be received. Additionally, Gibson's reputation has become increasingly controversial due to multiple arrests and accusations of racist and anti-Semitic behavior. Although his recent film Hacksaw Ridge garnered critical acclaim and several Academy Award nominations, Gibson's standing in Hollywood remains contentious. As such, it's uncertain how the Passion of the Christ, Resurrection, will fare both critically and commercially in the current climate. Many have asked why the Passion of the Christ was so controversial, and the answer lies in its depiction of Jesus and its historical accuracy. The film presents itself as a faithful retelling of the final 12 hours of Jesus' life, but it's far from accurate in several respects. First off, the portrayal of Jesus in the film is criticized for focusing heavily on suffering, pain, and hopelessness rather than the love, hope, and redemption that are central to his teachings. Rather than portraying Jesus as a beacon of light and compassion, Mel Gibson's version emphasizes brutality and despair. There are several notable inaccuracies throughout the film. For instance, the opening scene shows Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane while being confronted by a dark, androgynous figure that represents Satan, accompanied by a giant snake. This scene, which seems to draw inspiration from the book of Genesis, is not found in any biblical account of Jesus' time in the garden. Another disturbing element is the depiction of a grotesque demon baby mocking Jesus during his torture. This unsettling image, which is held by Satan, is a creation of the film and has no basis in biblical text. The crucifixion itself is also embellished for dramatic effect. The film shows Jesus carrying the full weight of the cross alone, which is debated by historians who suggest that Jesus may have been tied to the cross rather than nailed. Additionally, the extreme torture depicted in the film is not supported by biblical accounts, which do not describe such barbaric suffering. The film's portrayal of Jesus' appearance is also questioned. The depiction of Jesus' skin tone, hair, and attire may not reflect historical or biblical accuracy. Some evidence suggests that Jesus may have had a darker complexion, and the modest loincloth he wears throughout his torture seems inconsistent with the purpose of public humiliation. Moreover, the film suggests that Jesus was fluent in Latin, which is unlikely given the historical context. He probably spoke Aramaic and possibly some Greek. The film also inaccurately portrays Jesus inventing the dining room table, which is a purely fictional element. These inaccuracies and dramatic embellishments have sparked controversy and criticism, leading many to question the film's claim of being a true representation of biblical events. And let's not overlook that the Passion of the Christ was incredibly violent. The film is infamous for its graphic depiction of Jesus being whipped, stabbed, beaten, and tortured. Many critics felt the violence was excessive, appearing both exploitative and voyeuristic. They argued that the story could have been told without such extreme brutality, and audience reactions ranged from extreme discomfort to physical distress. Some viewers cried and fainted, and there were even reports of a woman suffering a fatal heart attack during the crucifixion scene. Roger Ebert described it as the most violent film he has ever seen. If Mel Gibson's intention was to stir controversy, he certainly achieved it with The Passion of the Christ. Now, with the announcement of a sequel, The Passion of the Christ Resurrection slated for a 2024 release, it seems the film is set to push boundaries even further. This sequel, which will explore the days between Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, including his descent into hell, will see Jim Caviezel reprising his role as Jesus. Given the original film's reception, it's anticipated that this sequel may face even more backlash and controversy. For today's video, thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. Given the intense reactions to The Passion of the Christ and the anticipation surrounding its sequel, how do you think The Passion of the Christ Resurrection will be received? Will it face similar controversy, or will it bring something new to the table? Let us know your thoughts.